Master, do Buddhists believe in God? The question hung in the air, echoing softly in the tranquil meditation hall. A group of eager disciples sat cross-legged on the polished wooden floor, their eyes fixed on their teacher. Master Li, a wise and gentle monk with years of practice and deep understanding, smiled at his students. He could see the curiosity in their eyes and the earnestness in their hearts. This was a question he had been asked many times before, but he knew it was essential to approach it with fresh insight every time. A very good question, Master Li began, his voice calm and soothing, like a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves of an ancient tree. To understand the answer, we must first look deeply into what Buddhism teaches about the nature of existence and the divine. You see, in many religions, the idea of God is central, an all-powerful, eternal being who created and governs the universe. But Buddhism approaches this concept quite differently. Would you like to explore this together? The disciples nodded eagerly, leaning in closer, their anticipation palpable. They were ready to delve into the heart of Buddhist philosophy, to uncover the truths that lay beyond their initial understanding. Master Li continued, his eyes twinkling with the joy of sharing his wisdom. Let's start with the teachings of the Buddha, as preserved in the ancient texts. The Buddha did not speak of a personal deity or a creator God, a being who is eternal and omnipotent. Instead, he focused on the principles of impermanence, non-self, and the nature of reality. But why do you think that is? Why would the Buddha, who taught us so much about the nature of suffering and the path to liberation, choose not to focus on a creator God? The room was silent as the disciples pondered the question. Some furrowed their brows in thought, while others whispered quietly among themselves, trying to piece together their understanding of what they had learned so far. A young disciple named Ananda raised his hand hesitantly. Master, is it because in Buddhism, everything is seen as impermanent and without a fixed self? Maybe a creator God doesn't fit with those teachings? Master Li's smile broadened, and he nodded approvingly. Excellent, Ananda. You're touching on something very important. In Buddhism, all things are indeed considered impermanent and lacking an inherent self. This idea challenges the notion of an eternal, unchanging deity. But let's go deeper. Buddhism also speaks about the doctrine of dependent origination and the law of karma. How do you think these teachings relate to the idea of a creator God? Ananda's eyes widened as he realized the connection. Other disciples began nodding in understanding, murmuring to one another as they made the links in their minds. Master Li could see the spark of comprehension starting to light up their faces. He paused, letting the moment sink in, before continuing. You see, my dear students, Buddhism offers a unique perspective on the divine and the nature of existence, one that goes beyond the simple dichotomy of belief or disbelief in a God. It teaches us to look beyond appearances, to see the interconnectedness of all things, and to find liberation through wisdom and compassion. Today, let's explore this path together, understanding why Buddhism takes this distinctive stance, and what it truly means for our practice and our journey toward enlightenment. With that, Master Li invited his disciples to sit back, relax, and open their hearts and minds. And so began a deep and thoughtful exploration into the Buddhist view of God, morality, mysticism, and the path to ultimate freedom. Alright, everyone, today, we're about to embark on a deep and exciting journey into Buddhism and its unique perspective on the concept of God. I can see the curiosity in your eyes, and some of you might already be wondering, isn't Buddhism just atheistic? Well, that's a common misconception, and it's one we're going to unravel together. So, let's dive in. First, let's address the elephant in the room, the idea that Buddhism is atheistic. This is an oversimplification that doesn't quite capture the essence of Buddhist teachings. You see, Buddhism doesn't fit neatly into Western categories of religion, which are often framed around belief in a god or gods. To understand Buddhism's stance, we need to look closely at the teachings of the Buddha as recorded in the Pali Canon, one of the earliest collections of his teachings. Now, the Buddha's teachings don't promote the idea of a personal deity or a creator god, a being who is eternal, omnipotent, and omniscient. Why is that? Well, at the heart of Buddhist philosophy are three fundamental concepts: impermanence, anicca, non-self, anatta, and the nature of reality. Think about this for a moment. If everything in existence is impermanent, constantly changing, and lacking a permanent self, how could an unchanging, all-powerful deity fit into this picture? Do you see the contradiction here? Moreover, Buddhism rejects the notion of an impersonal Godhead or a universal soul, which might be closer to what some people think of as a spiritual force or essence that pervades everything. But again, this idea doesn't align with the Buddhist teaching of non-self, which holds that all phenomena, all things, including ourselves, are devoid of a permanent, unchanging essence. Everything is in flux, constantly arising and passing away. Imagine trying to catch the wind in your hands. That's what it's like to try to grasp at a permanent essence in a world where everything is always changing. You might now be asking, but what about those Buddhist texts that mention a creator God? Ah, great question. In Buddhist texts, the belief in a creator God, referred to as Isara Niyama Veda, is mentioned, but it's not endorsed. Quite the opposite. It's actually grouped with other incorrect views, such as the idea that the world originated from a world soul, time, or nature. These views are considered misguided attempts to explain the origins of the universe, which don't align with the Buddha's teachings on dependent origination, paticcasamuppada, and the law of karma. Dependent origination is a profound concept that explains how all phenomena arise in dependence on conditions. Nothing exists independently or by its own power. Everything is interconnected, a vast web of causes and effects, but let's not stop there. Buddhism's approach to the idea of God and gods is even more nuanced when we consider its views on morality and theistic belief. Here's where it gets really interesting. Although Buddhism denies the existence of a creator God, it doesn't dismiss the value of theistic beliefs outright. Wait, what? You might say. Yes, that's right. In some contexts, belief in a God can actually be seen as morally neutral or even beneficial. For example, a belief in God might encourage ethical behavior by instilling a sense of accountability through the belief in karmic consequences. Picture this: a person who believes in God and strives to live a virtuous life, helping others, acting with kindness and generosity. This person could achieve a favorable rebirth in a heavenly realm, a place that aligns with their belief in a divine abode. But, and here's a crucial point, this heavenly state isn't eternal. It's still within the cycle of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. However, there's a flip side to this coin. The Buddha also warned against the potential dangers of theistic belief. He pointed out that such beliefs could lead to fanaticism or intolerance, especially when people become attached to their views and start to believe that their way is the only way. This kind of attitude, as history has shown us, can lead to violence and persecution. And what kind of karma does that create? Negative karma, which leads to suffering in future rebirths. Buddhism, therefore, takes a balanced view. It recognizes that belief in a deity can inspire positive moral conduct but also warns against the divisiveness and harm that can come from dogmatism and religious intolerance. Isn't that a wise and compassionate approach? Now, let's move to another intriguing aspect: mystical experiences. Many religions view these as direct encounters with the divine, moments when a person feels they have touched or been touched by God. But in Buddhism, these experiences are interpreted quite differently. They're seen as advanced states of meditative absorption, known as jhana. These states are marked by profound concentration and heightened awareness. Imagine achieving such a deep state of meditation that you feel bliss and clarity beyond anything you've ever known. It would feel otherworldly, wouldn't it? But Buddhism teaches that even these extraordinary experiences are not proof of a divine presence. Instead, they are natural phenomena that arise due to specific conditions and practices. Buddhists are encouraged to view these experiences through the framework of the three characteristics of existence: impermanence, suffering, dukkha, and non-self. This helps them avoid becoming attached to these states or misinterpreting them as evidence of a Godhead. Why is this important? Because it teaches us not to cling to experiences, however blissful they might be, and to remember that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent and ultimately unsatisfactory. Even the most profound states of meditation are still within the realm of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. The ultimate goal in Buddhism is not to attain heavenly states or mystical experiences but to achieve nibbana, the cessation of all suffering and the end of the cycle of rebirth. This is liberation, freedom from all attachments, all desires, all delusions. And now, let's reflect on what makes Buddhism such a unique spiritual path. Unlike many religions that emphasize belief in a divine being or adherence to divine commandments, Buddhism is not concerned with belief in gods at all. It's concerned with understanding the nature of reality and our place within it. Buddhism teaches that all forms of existence, whether human, divine, or otherwise, are impermanent and ultimately unsatisfactory. The path to liberation, then, is not found in seeking eternal life or divine favor, but in understanding the true nature of existence and freeing oneself from the attachments and delusions that bind us to the cycle of samsara. But what about morality? You might wonder, if Buddhism doesn't have a god, then what grounds its ethics? Great question. Buddhist ethics are rooted in the principle of karma, which states that actions have consequences based on the intention behind them. It's not about obeying divine commandments, it's about understanding that our actions, driven by our intentions, shape our experience of the world. Good actions, motivated by compassion, generosity, and wisdom, lead to positive outcomes, while harmful actions, driven by greed, hatred, and delusion, result in suffering. This principle suggests a morality that is independent of religious belief, a universal ethical framework that anyone can understand and follow. As belief in a divine being seems to be diminishing in some parts of the world, Buddhism offers a robust ethical framework that does not rely on the existence of a god. It provides a foundation for morality based on understanding the nature of reality, the law of karma, and the pursuit of wisdom and compassion. Isn't that a refreshing perspective? It shows that one can live a morally upright life, not out of fear of divine retribution or desire for divine reward, but out of a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all life and the desire to alleviate suffering. So, where does this leave Buddhism in the broader spiritual landscape? Buddhism doesn't position itself as an adversary to other religions or religious beliefs. In fact, it acknowledges and respects the ethical, spiritual, and cultural contributions made by theistic religions throughout history. However, it also recognizes the potential dangers associated with religious dogmatism and the misuse of the concept of God to justify power and control. The Buddhist path is one of balance, wisdom, and compassion. It focuses on understanding reality as it is and cultivating qualities that lead to liberation from suffering. In conclusion, Buddhism offers a unique spiritual path that transcends the simple dichotomy of theism and atheism. It provides a profound framework for understanding the nature of existence and the causes of suffering, offering a path to liberation based on personal insight, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. By focusing on the here and now, Buddhism encourages individuals to overcome greed, hatred, and delusion and develop a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. This path doesn't lead to a distant heaven or an eternal godly realm but to a profound peace and freedom that can be realized in this very life. Isn't that a path worth exploring? What do you think? How does this perspective resonate with you? As the afternoon sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long, golden shadows across the meditation hall, Master Li concluded his teachings on Buddhism's unique perspective on God and the nature of existence. The disciples sat in reflective silence, absorbing the profound insights they had discussed. The air was thick with contemplation, each student deep in thought about the new understandings they had gained. After a moment of stillness, Master Li spoke again, his voice soft but filled with a quiet strength that commanded attention. So, my dear students, what have we learned today? How does the Buddhist view on God and the nature of reality affect our journey on this path? Ananda. Would you like to share your thoughts? Ananda, who had been listening intently, raised his head and nodded thoughtfully. Master, I think I understand now why Buddhism doesn't focus on a creator God. It's not about rejecting the divine or denying the experiences others might have of a higher power. It's more about focusing on the nature of our existence, understanding that everything is interconnected, impermanent, and lacks a fixed self. By letting go of our attachment to fixed beliefs, even about God, we open ourselves up to a deeper understanding and compassion for all beings. Master Li smiled warmly, his eyes twinkling with approval. Well said, Ananda. You have grasped an essential aspect of our discussion. Buddhism is not about denying or affirming God, it's about looking deeply into the nature of reality and freeing ourselves from all forms of attachment, including attachment to views. It's about cultivating wisdom and compassion, recognizing that all beings seek happiness and freedom from suffering. When we see this clearly, our hearts naturally open, and we find peace within ourselves. Another disciple, May, raised her hand hesitantly. Master, I have a question. If Buddhism is about understanding the nature of reality and finding liberation, how should we view other religions and their beliefs? Should we see them as wrong or misguided? Master Li's expression grew serious but kind as he considered May's question. Ah, May, that is a very important question. In Buddhism, we are taught to cultivate respect and compassion for all beings, regardless of their beliefs. Other religions offer different paths and perspectives that can also lead to ethical living and spiritual growth. It is not for us to judge others as wrong or misguided. Instead, we should focus on our own practice, understanding that every path has its own truths and its own ways of helping people find meaning and purpose. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. Remember, our goal is not to convert others or to prove that our way is superior. Our goal is to understand the nature of suffering and to find a way to alleviate it, both for ourselves and for all beings. We do this by cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline, not by clinging to rigid views or dismissing others. By embodying these principles, we can be a light to others, showing them through our actions and our kindness what the path of compassion and insight looks like. The disciples nodded, understanding the depth of Master Li's teachings. They could see now that the Buddhist path was not about exclusion or dogma but about inclusivity, understanding, and the sincere wish for all beings to be free from suffering. It was a path of balance, not extremes, a path of wisdom and compassion. Seeing the calmness and resolve in their faces, Master Li knew his students had grasped the essence of the day's lesson. Let us end today's teaching with a meditation on compassion, he said gently. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and bring to mind all beings, those you love, those you find challenging, and those you have never met. Imagine them all as part of one great web of life, interconnected and interdependent. Wish for each one of them the same happiness and freedom from suffering that you seek for yourself. In doing so, you are practicing the heart of the Buddha's teachings. As the disciples closed their eyes and began to meditate, a deep peace settled over the hall. The teachings of the day had not only expanded their understanding but had also deepened their compassion and commitment to their practice. In the quiet stillness, they felt connected to something much larger than themselves, a profound unity that transcended all concepts of self, other, and even the divine. It was a feeling of boundless love and limitless possibility, and as the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting the last rays of light through the open windows, Master Li looked upon his disciples with a deep sense of fulfillment. He knew that their journey was just beginning, but he was confident that they were on the right path, a path of wisdom, compassion, and true understanding.